autumn of 2024, a telescope in California caught a single flash of blue light coming from the far edge of the universe. At first, it looked like just another dying star. It wasn't. Within days, astronomers realized they were staring at something that should be impossible. An explosion so violent that for a brief moment it outshone every supernova we have ever recorded. In a matter of days, it released around 400 billion times the energy of our sun. A massive star was being torn apart and eaten alive by a black hole. But that is not the part that keeps these scientists awake at night, because months later, when the fire finally began to fade, something was still there. Something dense, something that survived being shredded by a black hole, and it was moving toward us. This is the story of the Whippet, the most powerful stellar death we have ever witnessed, and the mystery it left behind. To understand why researchers are calling this one of the most extreme events in the history of astronomy, we have to go back to the night it was found. An astronomer named Anna Ho at Cornell University was scanning data from the Zwicky Transient Facility, a robotic telescope at Palomar Observatory in California that photographs the entire northern sky every couple of nights, hunting for anything that suddenly changes. On this night, it found a new point of light, a dot of intense blue, where, just days earlier, there had been nothing at all. It was logged with a cold string of letters and numbers, a T2024 WPP, but the astronomers gave it a nickname, the Whippet, and almost immediately, it started breaking the rules. Most exploding stars fade slowly, over weeks or months, glowing in warm reds and yellows as they cool. The Whippet did the opposite. It was blazing blue, the color of something impossibly hot, and it was fading fast. Within a single day, the Liverpool telescope in the Canary Islands and NASA's Swift satellite in orbit confirmed the impossible. This object was pouring out X-rays, blindingly blue, burning hot, fading fast. That exact combination points to one of the rarest and least understood events in the entire cosmos, a luminous fast blue optical transient. Astronomers have only ever caught a handful of them. In fact, they're so strange that scientists started naming them after animals. The very first was nicknamed the cow, and now we had the Whippet. The problem is, after all these years, no one fully understands what these things actually are. But the Whippet wasn't just rare. When astronomers measured how far away it was, tracing light that had traveled across an enormous stretch of the universe just to reach us, the numbers stopped making sense. Whatever this was, it was releasing far more energy than any ordinary exploding star ever could. Many times more powerful than any similar event we'd seen before, and more violent than any explosion we know of that comes from a star simply collapsing and dying. So if a dying star couldn't explain it, what could? The answer was a monster. The team, led by Daniel Purley of Liverpool John Moores University, slowly pieced it together. A massive star, a supersun, far larger and heavier than our own, had wandered too close to a black hole, and the black hole did what black holes do. Its gravity reached out and began to pull the star apart. Not all at once, piece by piece. Purley described it in almost casual, chilling terms, like the black hole was simply preparing a snack for lunch. When something falls toward a black hole, gravity doesn't pull on all of it evenly. The side closest to the black hole is yanked far harder than the far side, and so the star was stretched, pulled into a long, thin, screaming ribbon of fire, a process astronomers grimly call spaghettification. That ribbon of shredded star wound itself into a glowing disk, spiraling around the black hole, feeding it. As that stolen material spiraled inward, it was crushed and superheated to tens of thousands of degrees, until it blazed brighter than an entire galaxy. And that is the light that reached across the universe and lit up our telescopes. The numbers behind it are almost meaningless to the human mind. Our sun pours out more energy in a single second than all of human civilization has ever produced, and the Whippet, at its peak, burned with the power of 400 billion of those suns, all at once. For a few days, a single dying star shone as brightly as a galaxy of hundreds of billions of stars. But a black hole feeding this violently doesn't just glow, it screams. The Whippet blasted out a furious wind of gas and radiation and drove a shockwave outward through space at 1/5 the speed of light, roughly 60,000 kilometers every single second. That shock tore through the gas around the black hole for half a year, and then, strangely, it stopped. It fizzled out, as if it had slammed into an invisible wall, and in a way, it had. Before it died, the doomed star had been shedding its outer layers into space, blowing an enormous invisible bubble of gas around itself. When the shockwave finally reached the edge of that bubble, it ran out of room and faded. For a while, it seemed the story was over. The star was gone. The black hole had won. And then the Whippet did something no one saw coming. For the first month, as the most powerful telescopes on Earth watched, Keck, Magellan, the Very Large Telescope, the light carried no fingerprints at all. Normally, the light from an explosion tells you exactly what it's made of. Every element leaves its own signature. This one told them nothing, just a blank, featureless glow. But as the Whippet slowly faded, signatures finally began to appear. First, faint traces of hydrogen, and then helium. And that helium was doing something that stopped the astronomers cold. It was moving toward us, racing along our line of sight at more than 6,000 kilometers per second. Helium moving that fast, appearing that late, means one thing. Something down there was still intact. A dense, tightly bound structure had survived being shredded by a black hole, and it was now hurtling outward, toward Earth. So what is it? The researchers have two ideas, and both are unsettling in their own way. The first, it could be a stream of material torn straight from the core of the dead star, the dense, crushed heart of the supersun, flung out into space as the black hole tore the rest of it apart. But the second possibility is stranger. It's the idea that we may not have been watching two objects that night, but three, that there was a hidden third member of this system, a secret companion, and that what we're seeing now is that survivor, being blasted by the ferocious wind and radiation of the feeding black hole, screaming as it's driven out into the dark. We don't know which answer is true. We may not know for years, and that uncertainty is exactly why events like this matter so much. Black holes are, by their very nature, invisible. You cannot see something that swallows light itself. The only way we ever find them is when they reveal themselves. And they almost always reveal themselves by destroying something. Every time a black hole tears a star apart, it lights a flare we can see clear across the universe, and for one brief moment, an invisible monster is dragged into view. The Whippet didn't just show us a black hole, it showed us these deaths can be far more powerful, far more extreme than we ever believed possible, and it's forcing scientists to ask a chilling question. How many more of these monsters are out there in the dark, waiting for a star to wander too close? Somewhere, across a distance we cannot truly imagine, a star that had burned for millions of years met a black hole and lost. The explosion is fading now, sinking back into darkness, but its light is still crossing the universe, and it will keep arriving at our telescopes long after we are gone. And buried in that fading glow, something survived, something we still cannot explain, moving quietly toward us through the dark. So I'll leave you with the question the scientists are still asking. What do you think it is? A piece of the murdered star's heart, or a hidden survivor we never knew was there? Tell me in the comments. And if you want more of the universe's darkest, unsolved mysteries, subscribe and stay in the dark with us. Until next time.